Imagine going about your day, maybe you're at home, at work, or walking outside, and suddenly the ground beneath your feet begins to tremble. It starts as a slight rumble, but in seconds it escalates.
What if Earth faced a magnitude 15 earthquake?
The shaking becomes so violent that you can barely stand. Buildings are swaying, the ground is cracking, and there's chaos everywhere. But this isn't an ordinary earthquake. This is something the world has never experienced before.
What you're feeling is a magnitude 15 earthquake, something that would completely change the face of the Earth.
Can you even picture how devastating that would be? This is what-if explanations, and today we're diving into the catastrophic possibility of what would happen if Earth faced a magnitude 15 earthquake.
The sheer power is beyond comprehension.
So what exactly is the Richter scale?
How does it measure such massive quakes?
It's a logarithmic scale, meaning each whole number increase represents a tenfold increase in the amplitude of the seismic waves and roughly 32 times more energy being released.
So a magnitude 7 earthquake is 10 times stronger than a magnitude 6.
And 32 times more powerful in terms of energy.
By the time we reach magnitude 9, we're already talking about an event that can destroy entire cities. But a magnitude 15? That's off the charts.
It's beyond what the Richter scale is even designed to measure. The incomprehensible power of a magnitude 15 earthquake.
The devastation would be unprecedented. In fact, many scientists believe that an earthquake of this size isn't even physically possible on Earth because the planet's crust wouldn't be able to store or release that much energy.
Imagining the impossible.
Could humanity survive such an event?
First, the ground shaking wouldn't just be localized like in typical earthquakes.
This wouldn't be a case of one region experiencing an earthquake while the rest of the world goes about its day.
No, this earthquake would be felt globally.
No matter where you were on the planet, you'd feel it.
The entire Earth would shake, and not just for a few minutes, but potentially for hours or even longer.
The ground beneath our feet would seem unstable, like it was liquid.
It wouldn't just be shaking, it would be moving in waves, rolling and buckling underfoot.
The initial shockwave would send out ripples of destruction across the globe.
Wherever the epicenter was located, it would be completely obliterated, but the effects would spread far and wide.
Imagine fissures opening in the ground, massive cracks stretching for hundreds of miles, swallowing everything in their path. Buildings, roads, entire cities.
Skyscrapers that are designed to sway with normal earthquakes wouldn't stand a chance against the sheer force of a magnitude 15 earthquake.
Even the most advanced earthquake-proof structures would crumble like sandcastles.
Think of cities like Los Angeles, Tokyo, or Istanbul, which are located near fault lines and have experienced earthquakes in the past.
Now, multiply the destruction they've seen by an unfathomable amount.
Even cities that aren't typically prone to earthquakes like New York or London would be devastated.
Buildings would collapse, streets would be torn apart, and infrastructure would be destroyed.
Every major city across the world would be affected.
But it wouldn't just be buildings that would collapse.
The very land beneath us would shift dramatically.
Mountains could rise, valleys could sink, and entire landscapes would be reshaped in minutes.
Coastal regions would experience some of the worst effects as the earthquake would trigger massive tsunamis.
And we're not talking about the kinds of tsunamis we've seen in the past.
These would be on a completely different level.
A magnitude 15 earthquake would likely occur along a subduction zone where tectonic plates meet and one is forced under the other.
If this happened under the ocean, it would displace an unimaginable amount of water, sending giant waves hundreds of feet high racing toward coastal cities.
The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was caused by a magnitude 9.
One earthquake and the waves it created reached up to 30 meters high, devastating entire regions.
Now imagine waves 5 or even 10 times higher than that.
These tsunamis would obliterate coastal cities like San Francisco, Sydney, or Shanghai.
They'd surge miles inland, sweeping away everything in their path. People, cars, homes. Nothing would be left standing.
And it wouldn't stop at just one tsunami.
The earthquake's energy would likely trigger multiple, massive waves across different parts of the world.
From the Pacific to the Atlantic, coastal regions across the globe would be at risk.
Even cities located farther inland, which typically feel safe from oceanic disasters, would be hit by flooding as rivers overflowed from the shock.
The devastation wouldn't just stop at tsunamis.
Earthquakes this powerful could also trigger massive volcanic eruptions.
The Earth's tectonic plates would be shifting so violently that it could cause magma to be forced to the surface.
Volcanic activity would spike, with dormant volcanoes suddenly erupting.
Supervolcanoes like the one under Yellowstone National Park in the United States could be triggered, spewing ash and lava into the atmosphere.
The amount of volcanic ash released into the air could block out the sun, leading to what scientists call a volcanic winter.
Global temperatures could drop as sunlight is obscured, disrupting agriculture and ecosystems around the world.
The combination of earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions would create a perfect storm of destruction, and the effects would be felt for years, if not decades.
The shaking wouldn't just stop after the initial quake either.
Aftershocks would continue to rock the planet, with some of them potentially measuring as high as magnitude 9 or 10.
These aftershocks would cause even more damage to already weakened structures, making it nearly impossible for survivors to rebuild.
Speaking of survivors, how would humanity fare in the face of such a disaster?
The immediate death toll would be catastrophic.
Millions, possibly even billions of people would be killed in the initial quake, the tsunamis, and the volcanic eruptions.
Those who survived would face a world that is almost unrecognizable.
Cities would be reduced to rubble, infrastructure would be destroyed, and basic necessities like food and water would become scarce.
In the aftermath, hospitals would be overwhelmed, if they were even still standing.
Governments would struggle to maintain order and provide aid, especially since transportation systems would be in ruins.
Air travel would be impossible due to ash in the atmosphere, and roads and bridges would be destroyed.
Emergency services would be stretched to their limits, and it's likely that many regions would be left isolated for weeks or months, cut off from help.
The breakdown of global communication networks would make it difficult for nations to coordinate aid efforts, and many areas could be left to fend for themselves.
With food supplies disrupted, famine would become a real threat.
Crops would fail due to the combination of ash clouds blocking sunlight and the destruction of farmland.
Global trade would grind to a halt, and nations would be focused on their own survival.
The economies of the world would collapse, plunging the entire planet into a deep recession, if not a full-blown economic depression.
People would likely turn to looting and violence as resources became scarce, and societal order as we know it could break down entirely in some regions.
And it's not just humans who would suffer.
Wildlife and ecosystems would be devastated as well.
Forests could be flattened, oceans poisoned by the tsunamis, and the air choked with volcanic ash.
Many species would likely go extinct in the aftermath, unable to adapt to the sudden and extreme changes in their environment.
But beyond the immediate devastation, the long-term effects of a magnitude 15 earthquake could be even more terrifying.
Such a massive release of energy could have unpredictable consequences for the planet.
Some scientists speculate that a quake this powerful could potentially disrupt the Earth's rotation.
The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, which was a magnitude 9.0,
actually shifted the Earth's axis slightly and shortened the length of the day by a fraction of a second.
A magnitude 15 earthquake could cause a much larger shift, potentially altering the length of the day or even the tilt of the Earth's axis, which in turn would affect weather patterns and seasons around the world.
There's also the possibility that an earthquake of this magnitude could disrupt the Earth's magnetic field.
The magnetic field is generated by the movement of molten iron in the planet's outer core, and it protects us from harmful solar radiation.
If the earthquake somehow disturbed this process, we could be exposed to higher levels of radiation from the sun, which would have devastating effects on life on Earth.
Additionally, a magnitude 15 earthquake could cause massive changes in the planet's tectonic activity.
The Earth's crust is made up of plates that are constantly moving and shifting, and an earthquake this powerful could cause those plates to move in unpredictable ways.
New fault lines could form, and entire continents could shift.
It's possible that the geography of the Earth would be permanently altered, with new mountain ranges forming, coastlines shifting, and some areas of land sinking beneath the ocean.
While all of this sounds terrifying, the good news is that a magnitude 15 earthquake is almost certainly impossible.
The Earth's crust simply isn't capable of storing or releasing that much energy.
The largest earthquakes we can realistically
expect are in the range of magnitude 9 or 10, which, while still incredibly destructive, are nowhere near the global catastrophe that a magnitude 15 earthquake would cause.
But even though a magnitude 15 earthquake isn't something we need to worry about, it's still important to remember that earthquakes are a real and constant threat in many parts of the world.
Regions near tectonic plate boundaries like the Pacific Ring of Fire are particularly vulnerable to large earthquakes.
Countries like Japan, Chile, and Indonesia have experienced devastating earthquakes in the past, and it's only a matter of time before they face another one.
So what can we do to prepare?
While we may not be able to prevent earthquakes, we can take steps to mitigate their impact.
Many countries have developed early warning systems that can give people valuable seconds or even minutes to prepare before an earthquake strikes.
Building codes have also improved, with engineers designing structures that can withstand the shaking of large earthquakes.
However, no amount of preparation can fully prevent the devastation that comes with a massive quake.
The best we can do is be ready to respond when disaster strikes.
In the end, while the idea of a magnitude 15 earthquake is a terrifying thought experiment, it reminds us of just how powerful the forces of nature truly are.
Despite all our advancements in technology and science, we are still at the mercy of the planet we call home.
Rebuilding would be a monumental task.
Communities would need to come together like never before.
International aid would be crucial, and the resilience of humanity would be put to the ultimate test. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the destructive power of earthquakes, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending what-if scenarios.
This has been What If Explanations, and I'll see you in the next one.